Hi guys, it's Sherry. Today we are going to be making a top layer for this wood box that I have. And the first thing you are going to want to do is grab your white Primo clay. So I have mine rolled out to the middle section of my pasta machine. And here you can see it's not overly thick. We do not need it to be thick. I will be laying my clay right down onto the piece that I will be baking it on. This way I don't run the chance of moving it and distorting my piece before it is baked. So just lay it on, whatever you're going to bake it on. Make sure no air is underneath your clay. And then with your box, get some deli paper, wax paper, whatever you have laying around, and measure out the top of your box. And that'll basically be your template, okay? And then I'm just going to lay it right onto my clay, smooth it out, and then I will be able to cut my clay exactly how I need it. So, and I'll go a little bigger than I need it to be, only because I like to trim my stuff up afterwards. So get that main section off of there and go a tad bit bigger. And when I say I'm going a little bit bigger, I mean just a tad bit. So you'll see like it's maybe like a centimeter. And then the top, I will cut a tad bit bigger as well. And I'm going to get my big blade to go a little bit straighter. Okay. And put that back into my blade holder. And then the bottom, you'll see that I'm going to leave that longer. Okay, so I have a good little gap at the bottom. Next, I'm going to take my transfer paper, and I have these beautiful crows, and I'm just going to lay it right on my clay here. So I'm going to go almost to the very top, but not exactly hitting the top here. And then lay that out, rub it on, burnish it, make sure no air is underneath it. And then set that off to the side. All right, so now I'm going to take my leftover white. I'm going to roll that out one more time. All right, so now I have this rolled out. I'm going to lay this on another clay mat. And then I just have one of my crows here. And I'm going to lay this right in the middle. And then lay that on flat as well. And then let that set. Okay, so I have my black clay rolled out to my middle section of my pasta machine. Now, because this is so thin, you are going to want to put just a tad bit of baby powder on. And the reason I say that is because it will help prevent your roller from sticking to the clay and lifting your clay up. So just put a little bit of baby powder all over. And then take your roller and just roll it all the way over. Okay. And don't worry, the clay will absorb the baby powder. So let's lift that and put that off to the side. Oops. Next, I'm going to take this and I'm going to get my water. And I'm going to start to spray my piece down with some water. Make sure you have the whole thing covered. All right, put that off to the side. Let that soak for a minute. Do the same thing with this one. And you'll see it'll start getting like almost fuzzy looking like wet toilet paper. And when it does that, you know that it's working. So can you see all that coming up? All that paper is starting to dissolve. So I like just to take a blade and then I will carefully just pull all that paper off. Now, when you do this, don't shove your blade into your clay. Just glide it across and it'll pull it off. You see how easy that is? Now, what I like to do next is take my water again, squirt it one more time, and then use my fingers and just rub, and you'll take off the extra paper that's kind of just sitting on top that your blade didn't get. And you'll feel the difference between the clay, the raw clay, and clay with paper on it still. Okay, so once you feel all that raw clay, get your blade one more time. Carefully wipe it down. Get all that extra paper, throw that right in the trash. I like to take a wipey and just kind of wipe up around. And then I'm going to let this sit and dry for about 10 minutes. And then do the same thing with this one. All right, so that only has a couple more minutes to dry. So our next thing that we are going to do is start cutting this up. So what I want to do is make strips to go in between each one of my crows here. So I'm going to need 1, 2, 3, 4 for that particular one. And I love using these rollers because you can see exactly where you need them to be cut, and it just works out perfect. So you just line your blade up with each one of the marks here, and that'll give you a perfect cut each time. So here is one. Okay, so let's start with that. And I'm just going to see how that looks first. Kind of get an idea. Next, I'm going to grab some of my clay adhesive. This is oven baked clay adhesive. Let me just put a little bit right there. Take my silicone thing, and then I'm just going to put a little bit right down. You do not need a lot. The clay is still sticky, but just for added measures, I am laying the clay adhesive down. And then line it up exactly how you would want it. And I'm going to stretch mine a bit. And then lay it right down. Okay. So that's what we have so far. Next, I'm going to take some baby powder and I'm going to go over the top here. And the reason I'm doing that is because I know it is still tacky. And to be able to work with it, you cannot have it to be tacky. All right. So we need to put our baby powder on top so we can work with it properly. So I just take my little brush here and just put a little bit of baby powder right on top. Now this will soak into our clay, no worries. It's not going to dull it in any way. I do want to put some right on the edges. I'm looking at it and I think it'll look really good if we edge it off. So I'm going to just put a little bit of my clay adhesive right on the edge. And then take and do the same thing on this side. All right, now take your template again, lay it over on top, figure out exactly where you want to cut your piece. Try to get as straight as possible. And then take a big blade and trim it up. Now for the bottom, you're going to go a little bit shorter. And the reason I'm saying that is because we're going to edge off the bottom. So I'm going to put my paper down, line it up perfectly. I'm going to trim it, but then I'm going to go up a little bit more after I trim it the first time. Okay, so now, oops, let me get my, I'm going to go about right there. Make sure everything is straight. I'm going to turn it around because I need to see it better. Okay. Now we need to do our edges because we know their edges are bigger than they need to be. So go right in the middle. And once again, and push that back up if it moved. Just make sure that our piece is still not too big, and it is right there. Okay. I'm actually going to use my X-Acto knife. Okay. Now take your black clay and roll that out one more time. Actually, yeah, we need it much longer. Okay, so I have my black clay rolled out again to my middle section. In order to go in between each area, I'm going to have to kind of measure it and see what I have. So I'm going to say this one's about 1 inch, a little more than 1 inch, a little more. So the two on the end are about 1 inch long that I need. So let's start with those ones first. And we're just going to do the same thing. Okay, so we got all 10 there. Let's get a straight cut. And then we are going to once again use our clay adhesive and just put a tad bit right on the tops. So I want to make sure that my pieces don't move. So I'm just going to take a little ball tool and I'm going to put a little dot on each corner to make sure that when I stretch them, they don't move out of that place. Okay, so that looks like that now. Now I just want to make sure everything's leveled. You gotta make sure your stuff is leveled so it lays on the box properly when after you bake it and you go to put it on. All right. Next, I'm going to take my metallic rub-on paint. Well, first I want to actually get some of this baby powder off. So just carefully wipe around on your black. Don't mush it because you don't want to take all that beautiful impression off now. So just go over it very lightly to get the top layer of that baby powder off. And then I'm going to take my metallic rub-on and I'm going to go with the bronze. And then I'm just going to carefully go right over the top to make all that detail just pop out. And then get the bottom. Look how beautiful this looks, guys. So pretty. I love taking little detail rollers like this and just bringing them out and doing such cool things with them. And then I have a little glob of adhesive here. I'm going to wipe that up. And now that I'm going to put off to the side. We will be making roses then, but first let's get this section done. So now I got to roll this out one more time because I want to edge out that entire piece. Okay. Let me clean this mess up and then we can move on to our roses. I'm going to run this through my pasta machine and get it well conditioned. And now we're going to get our silicone molds. So I'm going to go with these roses and then these little tiny flowers because they match what's in my transfer paper. And to use these molds, they're very, very simple. I'll show you how to do one. You just take your clay after it's conditioned and you pop it in and you kind of push your clay inside by moving the mold to fit in there real well. And then if you have anything left over, take your blade pop it off, and then you have a beautiful rose. So I'm gonna go do a bunch of those, and then I'll pop right back on. All right, so I have all my flowers done. And the next thing I want to do is just put some flowers here to make it pop a little bit. So I'm going to take my glue, once again, just put a little dab on my table, and then decide where I want to put things. So I'm going to put a flower right here, and then I'll take one of my roses and stick that on there. And let's just kind of put them all over and see what we could come up with. And I want to spread these around. I don't want them all in just one area. Okay, so I think that looks really good. You don't want to do too much because it becomes overwhelming. So this particular one is going to go right here. All right, so it's going to be about right there. All right. So what I need to do for that is to cut this right in half because I want it to open and close. So I'm going to lay it right on my table or right on my box here. And I'm going to get an idea where I want to cut it. I'll make a little mark in my clay there. And then I'm going to go straight across. And I want to make sure this is really straight, because it's going to look real funny if it isn't. So let me go. Oops, let me do, where's my one? Right here. So 1.5. And 1.5. And then I'm just going to cut straight down and lift up. And then I will bake that just like that, okay? Now I'm going to add just a couple little flowers to this one. I love this one. So beautiful. And let's do one small one right up here. All right. Lastly, I'm going to take one of my brushes here. I'm going to get my copper, and then I'm just going to go right on top of my roses and my other flowers. And that will help blend them in and not make them so to the point that they're too red. I hope that makes sense. So I have Primo clay here, which means I'm going to bake mine at 275. And I'm going to bake this for about 45 minutes to an hour tops. And then we'll come back and put this all together. All right, guys, so my pieces are out of the oven. They're cooled off. The next thing I want to do is take my chrome marker here. This is the bronze. And I'm going to just edge my piece. So I just want to make sure that there is no white showing. So I'm just going to go right where the white is and edge it all off to cover up any white. Okay. And lastly, there's 2 more things left to do. We're going to glue this on, and then we are going to seal it. I do not want my pieces to be overly shiny, so I am going to use my Bright Tone Matte. So what I ended up doing was I took my box. This was just a regular box I got at like Hobby Lobby. I ended up painting it all black, and then I took my metallic rub-on paint. I said wax earlier, but this is not wax. It's metallic rub-on. And then I just took the bronze and went over each area. I also painted the inside, and then I used my little felt for the bottom and the top, okay? Very, very simple to do. So now I'm going to take my No More Nails, and I'm going to go over my box lid here. And I just use my finger. You could use a paintbrush if you want. You're going to kind of measure how much of it you need. And don't worry about it. You can clean up anything that kind of seeps out from it. Have a baby wipe handy. And then just wipe off your hands. And then I take my top and push it into place. Press down on it. And then I'm going to take the rest of my wipey here and just clean up any glue that may have seeped over to the sides. And there we go. Look how gorgeous that looks. Is that not beautiful? I love that. So while that is starting to kind of get into place, I'm going to open this up. Anytime that you have a big container of like a sealer, you're going to want to stir it. I learned over time that if you don't stir it, the matte part kind of settles to the bottom and then it just automatically becomes shiny. And I don't want shiny. I want it to stay matte. So I'm going to stir this. And it doesn't take a lot. And brush that off. Just use a regular paintbrush and then go over your piece. And I go over the entire thing. I want to protect my paper and I want to protect my rub-on paint. All right, so I'm going to give this about 10 minutes to completely dry, and then we will do the front. And the reason I'm giving it 10 minutes is I want to make sure that this top is not going to move in any way. So give it about 10 minutes. And then we can move on to the front portion. While we wait for that to dry, I decided that I'm going to just put my glaze on now on this one, so we could just glue it and be done. And then everything could just dry together. All right, so my pieces are dry. This is set into place now. It's been about 10 minutes. You can see it's still a little tiny bit wet, but this is not going anywhere, which is exactly what I needed it to do. So now we're going to place this right here. So when we open it, that will open like that. So very cool. What we want to do is, instead of putting our No More Nails on the box, we are actually going to put it on the back of these pieces. So just put a little bit on each one. And then I'm just going to rub it around. And get right up to the edge. Like I said, if anything spills over, we can clean it up with the baby wipe. So no problem. All right. So let me place that down. Put this on top. And I want to make sure they meet up. And I want to make sure they're centered as well. And I'm going to kind of eye that up. Press it down well. Push them right next to each other. Get your wipey. Clean up any glue. And then you can see it opens up very nice. And that's it, guys. You just let that completely dry and your piece is done. I mean, how simple and easy, yet beautiful and effective. I mean, is that not gorgeous? This would make such a beautiful gift or just something for yourself. I absolutely love this. I hope that you guys enjoyed this as well. If you did, please remember to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Bye.